Hey everybody, what's up? It's Nicole. Welcome back to my channel. Hey, how y'all doing? I hope everybody's having a great day. I hate seeing the glare of the lights in my glasses, so I always do my intro with them on and then take them off. So if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Down below there is a red subscribe button. I would love to have you as part of the support system that I have built here on YouTube. The recovery support is so important to me, you guys, and you guys really do help me stay sober. As much as you guys tell me that I help you, I want y'all to know that y'all are helping me. So go ahead and subscribe. Click the bell notification so that way you'll be notified when I upload, and let's get into this video. So today I've been thinking about what I wanted to talk about, and I know I haven't done a story time in about a week. So I was thinking it's time for story time. This story time is dedicated to all the mothers out there who are struggling with addiction, who have children, and maybe you've lost your children to DHS. Maybe you're trying to fight to get them back. And I want to share my experience doing that with you. So here we go. So you guys know that. Let me set the tone for you. So my addiction began when I was a young girl. I was 17 years old when I really started abusing pills and alcohol, cocaine and methamphetamine. The abuse was like a weekend thing from the time I was 17 till about 19. And then once I turned 20, it became a daily thing. I had to use some kind of substance to be okay every day. Through my addiction, I faced different consequences. I always had major consequences in my addiction. I never just got off easy. For instance, I've been to 5 rehabs. I have served prison time. I was in prison for a whole year. I did 2 years probation, and then I got revoked and was put into prison for a year. I've lost vehicles. I have totaled them, sold them for drugs. I have lost relationships, lost friendships, houses, many material things. But most of all, I lost my dignity and my respect. I had absolutely no self-confidence, no self-esteem, no self-love. I was hella insecure, and I still struggle with that today. I'm not in any way, shape, or form, close to being healed from the disease of addiction. Every day I fight it, you know? And, so where I'm going to start out at in my story to make this story really focus on my experience with DHS and my son being removed from my care is I'm going to start out when Nathaniel was born. So my son was born July 4th of 2014, and he was 7 pounds, 9 ounces, 21 inches long, I think, 21.5 inches long, and he was born at 1 a.m. I had been in the hospital since 8 p.m. that evening. And let me kind of explain my birth story to you. So on July 3rd morning at 5 a.m., I called my husband and I was like, you've got to come home. I'm going into labor. I had the most excruciating back pain in my lower back. It almost felt like somebody was putting my body into a vice and squeezing me until I was about to pop. The pain was so severe. I've never experienced any pain in my life. The only way I could get relief was to get in and out of a hot bath. I would get on the ground and I would do these stretches with my back and my legs. I was up and down. It was the most excruciating pain. That was at 5 a.m. on July 3rd morning. At noon on July 3rd, I went into the hospital, and I was only dilated to 3. And I wasn't dilating, quickly. So I basically asked the nurses to please let me go home, because I didn't want to lay on my back the whole time, because it was so uncomfortable. So they let me go home, and I came back to this house where I'm at right now with Neil's mom and dad and Neil. And my friend Tara came over, and we spent the next 8 hours running hot baths, massaging my back, doing like stretches. And by the time I went back to the hospital at 8 p.m., I was 8.5 centimeters dilated. I was under the influence of methamphetamine, methadone, and Xanax whenever I gave birth to my son. He came out perfect. Absolutely perfect, you guys. When Nate was born, they did the little thing where they clean out his mouth and he was all, wah, wah. I mean, he was perfect. He scored like all good scores on that testing they give him. And he latched on right away when I started to breastfeed him. It was like, he was the perfect baby. He didn't cry a lot, you guys. He was just a good kid. Like, I didn't struggle with him at all when he was little. For the first year of Nate's life, we went home 3 days later. And for the first year of Nate's life, I struggled with postpartum depression for about 6 months. And then I finally went to the doctor and told them that I was struggling. And they put me on some medication for postpartum depression. I was trying with all my might to stay sober, you guys, whenever Nate was first born, but I relapsed after being sober for 3 months. When I relapsed, I stopped breastfeeding him, and I started formula feeding him because I knew if I fed him, you know, my breast milk, that he could get drugs in his system. This stress from having a new child, not having my own house to live in because we were living with Neil's parents, not knowing what to do, not being ready to have a kid, it was just so much. Having post-traumatic stress disorder, having postpartum depression, excuse me. It was just like one thing after the other, and I had absolutely no coping skills. I didn't know how to be sober. The only thing I knew how to do was get high and work. That's it. Like, work a job like where I did manual labor, like waiting tables or bartending, or, you know, or doing stuff outside. Like, I would do landscaping sometimes. Like, I didn't know how to stay sober. So every time I ever tried to get sober, I could not stay sober because I didn't know how. It wasn't a lack of willingness, because I was willing. I just didn't have the tools. So I relapsed, and I used the whole next year. And I was getting very, very, very out there. I started to abuse methamphetamine more than I probably ever had in the past. And that was because it gave me energy. It gave me energy. And I could stay up with Nathaniel when he would stay up all night if he did. And I could, you know, it made me have energy. I'm not going to make any excuses. And that's something I've always struggled with, was low motivation and no energy. And now I know I have hepatitis C. And so those are one of the what's it called? Symptoms of hepatitis C is fatigue, lack of motivation, nausea, stomach problems, gastrointestinal stuff, yellow jaundice eyes, yellow skin. I mean, there's just all kinds of different things, but now I know why I was experiencing those symptoms, and I still experience them now. Like, I'm actually fixing to make a doctor's appointment to go get put on Harvoni so I can get the cure and get this hepatitis out of my body. But I was struggling so hard, you guys. I wanted to be sober, but then I would do good for, like, say I would get clean for like a week, and I would do so well, and then I would relapse, because me and Neil, we would feed off each other, and one of us would get sober and the other one would follow, and then we would be doing real good, and we would start to feel good again. We would start to get our that healthy feeling back. And once that feeling came, then the triggers came, and that thinking of, oh, well, I'm doing okay now. I kind of deserve to, like, have a little bit of fun, you know? And we would both relapse. We would co-sign each other and say, oh, yeah, we deserve it. And we would do it. Well, I was out of my mind. I was to the point where, like, I was leaving home and leaving my son with my mother and father-in-law and not coming home for days. I'm so ashamed of that. Like, I would just leave him. And I would leave Neil, and I wouldn't come back for like a week. And I would stay out and shoot dope all day long. Well, one of my friends got really worried about me, and she called DHS, and she reported me for being negligent. And that's how my son got taken. He was taken away from me on July 2nd, 2015. And on July 3rd, I went into detox and I got sober. And I started the process of getting my son back. Getting my son back was the hardest work I've ever done in my life. Because I had to prove my recovery to the court system. I had to prove to them that I was serious about staying clean and sober, that I was serious about making life changes. And my past was working against me because they knew all my past experience. They knew I had been to 5 rehabs. Why was this time different? They knew that I was, you know, a thief and a manipulator and a con. And so why was this time different? And that's what they kept asking me. I want to share this with you ladies who have kids that are in the system, because the best advice that was ever given to me was to do everything I could that gave me a certificate to prove that I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. If there was a parenting class offered, I did it. If there was a way for me to take extra intensive outpatient rehabilitation, I did it. If there was classes I could take on safety for a child in car seats, I took it. I went to every meeting. I was there early. I got my meeting sheet signed every time I went to a meeting. I went to a meeting every day for the first 90 days almost, and I got my meeting sheet signed. I did my step work. I wrote down my steps and memorized them, because when I went into court, they asked me these things, and I had to know, because I wanted them to know how serious I was about wanting my baby back. I wanted them to know that I wanted to be clean and sober. I just didn't know how. I got involved in therapy. I got put on Suboxone, and then with being on medically assisted treatment, that also caused me some problems at the beginning, because my judge, the lawyer, was trying to say I wasn't sober because I was on Suboxone. And so I had to fight tooth and nail. I had to have my doctor come, not my doctor, but my nurse and my counselor come and testify to the judge that now that I'm on this medication, that I am clean and sober, and that I do have a dependency to this medication, but I also have a dependency to my mental health medications. And that doesn't limit me to be able to be a good parent. That doesn't limit me to be able to be present in my son's life. And I had to prove that to them and show them, like, I take this medication every day and I'm awake and alert and I'm present. It doesn't inhibit me. It doesn't keep me from doing anything that I need to do as a mom. And I had to do all those things to prove and to show the judge. It took me like 6 months to get my son back. It was the shortest case that I think has ever probably been, because that usually takes about 10 or 11 months to get your kid back. But I worked my ass off, y'all. I worked my ass off. I didn't have a good attorney. I had a state appointed attorney. I had, you know, my mother-in-law, they didn't help me. My sister-in-law, she wanted to take my son, and I said, hell to the no. Because I knew that if my sister-in-law took my baby, then I would probably never see him, because of the resentment she had towards my husband. I'm just keeping it real with you guys. Like, I would have rather my son go to strangers than to go to her. And he went to the most amazing family that I'm still in contact with today. But if I can help any of you moms that are struggling out there, if your kids are in Department of Human Services custody, if your kids are not with you and you need help, please message me. Message me here, message me on Facebook, message me on Instagram. I will help you with it, whatever I can help you with. But the biggest and most best advice I can give you is to do everything they ask you to do and to get everything documented. Everything. Write down everything. Take pictures of everything. Keep yourself a folder of all your appointments, all your paperwork, and get yourself certified in anything that they want you to do. Parenting classes, like I said, anything that can help you be a better parent. Do it. And if you're getting sober, get involved with a 12-step fellowship. Or do Celebrate Recovery, but you've got to do something. You've got to show that you're seeking out other sober support, because that's what you're going to fall back on if you have a relapse, is that sober support. And the courts know that. They've been doing this for a long time. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. I hope it helps any of you moms that are struggling out there. Like when my son got taken from me, that was the worst experience of my whole entire life. And I remember like it was yesterday, and I will never forget. I love my baby more than life itself. And I wanted to die when he wasn't with me. So I will never put him in harm's way again, ever. And I learned a lot of lessons then. And he's my life now. And I'm no longer selfish. He goes before me no matter what. Bye, guys.